On the way, I stopped in Gibraltar, Egypt, Iraq, and India, and saw things that I'd never even dreamed of seeing before. For me, it was much more than a tour to sing to the troops. It was a personal odyssey that changed me forever. Looking back on my long and eventful life, I felt that I wanted to record this important part of it in much more detail than I've done before. I have needed some help to do it, which is why my daughter, Virginia, or Ginny as she's known by almost everyone else, is writing this book with me. It is not just my story, but the story of the thousands of servicemen who I always think of as, and still call, the boys, who saw me in Burma, who helped me get there and back, who looked after me in trying conditions that I was unused to. Ginny, who once worked as a researcher at the BBC, made an appeal in the newspapers in 2012 to ask if any readers had stories about seeing me sing in Burma. The response was overwhelming, and we were flooded with hundreds of fantastic letters. She has carefully sorted through them all, and in this book has cleverly brought those stories to light, giving a wider background to what I did in Burma, describing what the boys who listened to me thought and felt when they heard me sing, and telling the bigger story of what was happening in the war at the time. Introduction by Virginia Lewis Jones. I've always known that my mother's trip to Burma in 1944, 2 years before I was born, was a particularly significant episode in her life. But to my mind, there's always been something slightly enigmatic about it too. She has written that, "Sometimes I think that I never quite got over that period of my life. My memories of the wartime years are strongest when I think of Burma." The slightly odd phrasing, "Why did Ma never get over it?" was in some ways a bit of a mystery to me, and I've never been entirely certain why Burma stood out so uniquely for her, given that the wartime years were memorable for her in so many other ways. She became hugely successful. She sang for Princess Elizabeth at Windsor Castle. She got married, and she met many celebrities, for instance. Maybe, I thought, it was the strangeness of being in Asia for the first time, and the attention she would have received being literally the only woman in camps, sometimes consisting of as many as 6,000 men. She told me recently that it was so foreign, it was only something like a war that could have taken me there, to a place that was so different to what I expected at home. But it was only after I made the appeal in the newspapers in 2012 for stories of Ma's tour that something else occurred to me. Perhaps at the heart of it was the sheer emotional power, bordering, yes, really, on delirium, that her songs and even her presence created amongst the men serving out there that stayed with her for the rest of her life. Here's just a taste of that passionate response from a letter written in 1944 by Lieutenant Corporal Ted Lindsay from Burma to his sister in London. "We went mad. Never have I yelled, bellowed, hollered or clapped so much before. I've always yearned to see Vera, always had that ambition, and glory be to me, here she was. I literally went mad." Later on he writes that, "I saw, believe it or not, blokes crying with joy at seeing our own Vera." Leading aircraftman H.S. Pewitt wrote to Ma soon after he saw her in Burma with a short piece of poetry he'd penned.
Vera Lynn, an appreciation. Tonight, I saw an English girl and heard the maiden's golden voice. She sang sweet songs of love to me and made my homesick heart rejoice. Tonight, I left the Indian heat and breathed sweet English air again. The maiden's voice transported me. 'Twas home, and I was there again. Tonight of this dear English girl, this message from my heart I send. But yesterday you were a voice. Tonight you